Welcome back, everybody, to the Blue and Gold podcast. This is your host, Geoffrey Whiteside, with my co-host, JD Kameen. And we have the absolute privilege of speaking with Blake Dailey, who is a Air Force graduate, unfortunately, class of 2015. While active duty, he purchased over $25 million in real estate and built his short-term rental / hotel portfolio to over 200 units, including 6 boutique hotels. But more importantly, Blake is a first-time new father. So shout out to Blake. Congratulations, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Been a transition. That's been harder than all the real estate combined so far.
Seriously, that's the hardest thing. Wait, I didn't know you were class of 15. That's awesome. Did you know
19 actually?
Oh, 19. 19.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it 19? Oh, butcher that.
Yep, 2019, man. 2019.
The sun exposure in the Air Force really aged you. You look older than you
are.
are.
Oh, man. Hitting me with it. Here we are. We're going to turn this into the Blue and Silver podcast now. Out show.
Well, I'm so excited to talk to you, Blake, because a lot of what you're doing mirrors some of the stuff that I'm interested in and I'm working on, and mistakes that I'm trying to kind of wade through in my own portfolio. So I'm really excited to pick your brain personally. For everybody that is watching the YouTube version of this, I'm currently in my wife's linen closet because our painters are painting the exterior of our house, and it rained this morning. So they rented 10 leaf blowers, and they're currently drying the exterior of our house. It's pretty wild stuff. So,
man, I love the story he comes up with too. There's a pink robe in the background. So with his wife. Really, it's his closet. That's his pink robe. That's what you get when you graduate the Naval Academy, right? Your pink robe and all that good stuff.
I'm all pastel over here, baby. Blake, can you just give us the down and dirty on you? Just catch us up to speed with like 30 seconds to a minute of who you are, where you're from, what you studied, kind of how you got into real estate.
Yeah, so like we're talking about, 19 grad from the Air Force Academy, got stationed down at Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida for my first assignment, and got into real estate investing right away. So I played football at the academy, and after my senior season, like the whole second semester, I had like 7 hours back per day, right? We didn't have film and weight room and, body work and practice and all this other stuff anymore. So I was like, what am I going to do with all this time? I was like, I know I want to get out. And like at that point, I was pretty sold on like getting into real estate in some capacity, but I thought it was just buying a house with the VA loan and moving a base and then buying another house and just stacking that up over a couple of years and building a portfolio that way. But just dove really into the real estate. And when I got down to Tyndall, I was at the point where I was writing handwritten letters. We were still living in TLF on Tyndall, writing handwritten letters to people in the area that just got hit by a hurricane. So there's a bunch of damaged homes, a bunch of distressed property. So I would drive for dollars, come back to the little lodging facility. Nicole would put the return addresses. I'd put the seller's addresses and sign my mailers and send them out. And while we were living there, we got under contract on our house with the agent that we were working on using the VA loan. It was a 2-unit. And then we got under contract on the next house that was going to be that was a Burr project that I was doing the direct mailers with. So we went from like no units really quick to really quickly like a house hack, because we rented out the mother-in-law suite and the house that we bought with the VA loan on Airbnb. So like that was how we got into the Airbnbs, which it evolved into the hotels. But while we were doing that, we're doing these off-market properties, and it was looking for however we can make it work, right? Long-term, short-term, flip it, wholesale. Like we're just trying to build cash so that we could do more buy and hold. And then because we saw how well the house was doing, like we were cash flowing to live for free in the one that we were in. So like, that's what we need to be doing, is just houses with guest houses or ADUs or, detached mother-in-law suites, whatever it is, carriage houses. All right. There's all kinds of ways. And we were just looking for that. So then we built up a portfolio of 8 of those, plus like 3 long-term rentals. And that in a year surpassed, like with the cash flow alone, surpassed what I was making as a lieutenant. And I was like,
you did that in
a
year?
Shit, man.
A year?
Yeah, a year. And I was like, that was my 5-year goal, to like be at the end of my 5-year commitment and decide if I wanted to stay in, keep doing the acquisitions career field, or like at that point, I just didn't know. So I was like, my plan is to stay into the Air Force until I, have something better to do, because I liked what I was doing. But when I saw that cash flow figure, I was like, dude, I think we got something here, and use that opportunity to pivot into commercial real estate, do bigger, more scalable deals, because I was kind of tapped what I could do on the residential side, which is time. I needed a deal that could essentially build the team and run itself. And that got me into apartment investing, and then made the pivot to hotels because I had the background of apartments and commercial and underwriting and capital raising, all that stuff, and then the Airbnb operations. And then 6 hotels later, here we are.
See, there's one thing, Geoffrey, and I hope that people watch this on camera because they can see it. Blake carries himself in a way that's like very humble, and it naturally makes you want to hear his story. I feel like a lot of people in real estate are like, at least on social media, there's like a palpable ego associated with it. Like, this is what I accomplished.
Yeah, look what I did.
Yeah, but the way that Blake carries himself, even in that 30 seconds, I'm leaning in now to listen to his story. And so I think like the personality side of real estate is also really important. And I think that's probably part of Blake's success too, is that you come across as humble and approachable, which is awesome. There were 2 things you said I'd love to clarify for midshipmen, because we're lucky that a lot of midshipmen also listen to this. You used a term called driving for dollars and BRRRR. Would you mind explaining those two things?
Yeah, so driving for dollars is basically what it sounds like. You're driving looking for properties that have some kind of distress, right? It could be a tarp on the roof, it could be overgrown grass, busted out windows, boarded up windows, whatever it is. A old, ugly house that the owner is not paying attention to, and probably isn't out of state, doesn't even know what the condition of the house is. So that's driving for dollars. It's just driving through like the neighborhood you want to buy in, finding the houses that you would like to buy, writing down the addresses, and then you can go look them up later. I mean, now they've got Deal Machine. You can just take a picture of the house and it'll automatically send a mailer to the seller for you. When I was doing it, I was driving, writing down addresses, going home, looking up the owner's information, getting their address, mailing them a letter manually. Wish I would have known about Deal Machine back then, but just tech to make it easier. And then BRRRR is the BRRRR strategy. So buy, renovate,
I always forget
renovate, refinance,
there's like
repeat.
4 R's. Yeah.
How many R's? Yeah. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. That's what it is.
Yeah.
BRRRR. Yeah. So basically you're fixing it up, putting renters in it, or renting it on Airbnb, refinancing to get your capital back out. So I was at the time doing like these perfect BRRRRs, what they would call like perfect BRRRR, or close to it, where it means like you put money into it and then you refinance and get all your money back. And then I was putting that into the next deal. So that was why I was like doing the wholesaling or flipping or whatever to build up cash to do a BRRRR with, get that money back, and then go do the next BRRRR with. And then it just became rolling that into even bigger and bigger deals as the cash goes up. It's just a fast way to, or like the best way to just expedite your capital working for you, right? Like the velocity of money turning over the same 100K, right, on a house, refinancing, getting it back, taking that 100K and buying another house while this first one is renting. And then you do that and just compound it.
So that first step you did is a lot of people's main goal in real estate. Just you've gone way, way past it. But that first deal you did of just buying a property and renting out the mother-in-law suite is like most people's dream, because that sounds very abnormal to how a lot of people were raised. I'm sure even your family, and if they didn't come from real estate, they must be like, Blake, you're renting out part of your house. Like that's bizarre.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've heard it for, I mean, we literally did this up until April of this year. Like every house that we lived in has been a house hack. And it's like, why would you want to live with, people next to you or hear your tenants or whatever? And I was like, why would you want to pay your own mortgage or pay your own rent? You know what I mean? Like I get whatever it was, $2,000, $1,800 in BAH that I'm pocketing, and I'm making money on top of that because it was cash flowing. So I was like, I was making money to live for free. And I was like, there's no better way to come out of the service academy, making pretty good money, pocket all your BAH, not have a living expense, and just get into real estate with like the lowest risk thing you can do. And oh, by the way, you can use the VA loan and put 0% down, which was the only way we were going to get into real estate. Because when we bought the house, we had like $2,200 in a negative net worth.
My next question, did you come from independent wealth, or did you do this like all of us did it, which is like,
no, dude, single mom. Yeah, single mom. And who's a bartender. Like there was no going to the academy was the only way I was going to college, right? Or scholarships on FAFSA or whatever out of high school. But that was like the academy was my ticket out of the small town, out of like I want to say like growing up poor, but definitely like lower middle
Yeah.
class, like, uh, welfare, food stamps, that kind of things, the whole hand me
Yeah.
down life. But it was like happy, it was just like
Oh,
broke and
dude,
didn't know about it,
kids
right?
don't care.
Just
Yeah.
Dude,
ignorantly broke.
kids do not care. You just want to spend time with your parents or whatever, like it could be a Mercedes or a push cart and you're happy.
Or old hoopty. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the
What were some of your biggest challenges with buying those first, few properties? Like I said before, I think Instagram is a highlight reel, but I want to hear what were the challenges so our listeners don't make the same mistakes.
Dude, you like, I'm bringing this to a sports analogy. Like we both played academy football. Like what you see on Sports Center is Mahomes making the touchdown pass in the fourth quarter, right? What you don't see all the time is all the work, right? If you go back and watch last season's quarterback on Netflix, is how much time he puts into the offseason, all the prep, all the practice, and even going back further than that, all of the throws he's made on, Friday mornings before class or whatever it was, like to prep, to put in the work to get to that point to be able to make the big plays. And I think real estate, business, whatever, is so analogous to sports because you've got to put in the work. You've got to make the effort. Like there are so many times I was showing up 22 years old, hadn't bought a real estate deal yet, standing in some seller's living room trying to convince them that I'm the right person to buy their house and help them with their insurance needs because they just had a hurricane push a tree into their roof and now they want to sell it. And it's like I didn't have any business being in there. Like I didn't even know exactly everything I was doing. I just knew like the big tenets, and then I just had to figure out how to, get them to say yes, and I could figure out the rest, right? Like if I had a good deal, I could find money. If I had a good deal, I could find, a contractor. If I had a good deal, I could find a partner. So that was what I was focused on, was just finding good deals and like just hoping and praying that the rest would come in. And I think, really just having faith in it and this manufactured confidence of I'm going to go in there with a smile, make it sound like I'm at least competent, right? Maybe not experienced, but competent with what I'm telling them, and then putting in the work to get it done. And there's, a lot of, I mean, every morning was like waking up at 4:30, like looking at deals, doing whatever I needed to do, reading, just like putting in the work and like the prep and just working on like the sales pitch too, right? When you're working on converting a seller, that is like a sales opportunity. So then you got to work on how to overcome objections, like how to call their ugly house ugly without calling it ugly. So you can point out the problems to them and all these different tactics. So it's just the freaking work, man. So like you hear 5 years later that turned into 6 boutique hotels that, make all this money. It started with freaking hundreds and hundreds of mailers, of cold calls, of conversations, of getting told no and no and no. And that's like a terrible offer and all these different things, and just having the persistence to put in the work.
Why are you putting in the work? What is driving you in all of this? None of this sounds easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good question. I mean, I think growing up at that time, at least growing up, like I did was a big part of it. Like growing up kind of wanting, but not having, like seeing that others had things that I would like, right? I mean, go into the base kind of like desires of things. Like people could take nice vacations or have nice cars or have the boat on the lake or whatever. It's like, why can't we have that? It's like, oh, they work to get that, or they've got a better job. Well, how'd they get the better job? Well, they went to this school. So it's like, how do I do those things? Like, how do I do those things to get ahead so that my kids grow up better than I did? And so I think that's part of it. And now I think it's more of like going back to the sports analogy, like the competitive edge of wanting to be the best at what I do. Like I want to be the best boutique hotel operator that I can be, and right, build a really cool portfolio around it and be one of the groundbreakers of the next stage. I can't remember his name. Bill Kimpton, or there's another guy, Studio 54, the like kind of the first boutique hotel in New York City. Can't remember the guy's name. Those guys like pioneered the boutique hotel space out of, the standard economy hotels and motels popping up all around the country, right? Like how Marriott and Hilton got really big. So like I want to do that, the next version of that with the boutique hotels. And I think it's like you get small wins, or even like in the sports analogy, you win the championship. Do you just want to come back the next year and coast? Like you want to keep pushing, right? Like Tom Brady didn't win one Super Bowl and say, no, man, I'm good. That one's enough. I'm okay. So like, I feel like there's part of that of just trying to compete with myself and be the best I can in business. And I mean, when you do better, you make more money, and that's always fun too.
That is definitely fun.
I can hear the intensity through the call. He's
Yeah.
fired up.
Well, you and I share an interesting experience too, and I think Geoffrey with Lexi. So I bought my first property. It was a quadplex with my wife, and we renovated it while we lived in it, and it was taxing on our marriage, taxing on our energy.
Yeah.
And we set a time limit for how long we were willing to do that, and we blew through it because it was expensive to move. But
Yeah.
how was that? Is your do you have a partner in crime? You know, are you
I
fully on board?
definitely have a partner in crime. I feel like it didn't necessarily start that way. I remember like we bought that house. I mean, and that first house that we bought was like $200,000, 0% down, and wasn't super expensive. Didn't take a lot to get it, but it was still nicer than either of the houses that we grew up in. Like really, that even any of the friends that we had. So like Nicole was really proud to have a home for us, right? Newly married. We had a home, we're building our life together.
Here comes
And then
Blake, starts chopping it up, putting in
and then I
walls.
remember we're like, oh, we're gonna move every year, right? We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna use the VA loan again because you can use the VA loan multiple times. So like in 12 months, we're gonna move out. Plus, we're gonna buy all these houses in the meantime by sending these letters, which she was helping with because she really is a ride or die. And I just remember like her like tears coming to her eyes, and she's like, I love this house. I don't want to move. Like, why do you just want to move me out of my home? And since then she's definitely evolved that thought and definitely trust me on those decisions. But it was like that was the nest for her, and that was like a stair step opportunity for me. So now she helps in the business a little bit. She doesn't like have an active role, but she has designed 2 of our hotels, all of our short-term rentals. So now when we're going through, and we're like we are right now, renovation phases at the hotel, she's going through helping the team make sure they get all the things that they need to, getting the right stuff out of the rooms. We're keeping some things, throwing other things away, making sure the contractors get the work done on time and in the right way. So having her high eyes and wisdom in the business is super helpful, and really is, a partner in crime. Like she's, I think where I see like the trees a lot of the time, like I'm just focusing like on lumberjack, dude. I'm going to take that freaking tree down if it's in my way. She's kind of zoomed out and sees the forest, and she's like, why don't you do this? I'm like, that's a pretty good idea. And just set down the axe and have a smarter way to do whatever that thing is. So yeah, she's been awesome, man.
That is awesome. So you mentioned construction, and you manage over $5 million in construction projects across your hotels. For someone who's new to real estate, what advice do you have in managing renovations and managing contractors and stuff like that? Because I know that could get tough.
Yeah, I think especially like inexperienced people can almost they're more at risk to like get eaten by a contractor who knows what they're doing and like takes advantage of the way the contract's written, or with change orders or whatever it is. So I think the number one tip is like just to be really firm. I mean, you can be kind, you can be respectful, but you can be firm as well at the same time with your contractors, because a lot of times if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, right? If you have $1,000 change order, that can easily turn into, them doing a lot more work and then billing you after the fact because they've already got one change order through. So then it becomes this bigger thing. So I think the firmness that you have to have with them in communications, having a really firm contract up front that outlines their due date of when stuff is done, and then having a penalty if it's not done by that point, right? You can do that on a project scope. If it's something simpler like a flip, you can say the flip has to be done in 30 days. And every week you go over 30 days, it's $2,000 or it's $5,000 off of your total, your project cost, or off the final draw. And then never pay for something before it's done. You put your initial deposit for materials.
Say it again.
That's it. You do not pay for the electrical before the electrical is done. I don't care if he has to pay his subs. I don't care if his if this GC's, if he's got 5 kids and they all get cancer at the same time and he needs like money to pay the draw. Do not pay the work before it gets done, because when you do that, what's their incentive to go get it done?
Yeah.
Then it takes longer. It drags on, adds costs, your holding costs go up, or they just, mess it up. So and that's the other thing. If they do the electrical, for example, and they rewire the home or the hotel or whatever it is the wrong way, I'm not paying you until you fix it now. And that's at your cost to fix it because you did it incorrectly, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't match the code or whatever it is, or if it doesn't pass inspection, well, Mr. Contractor, how to do the project is up to you. I just provide what needs done. The mode of, getting it done that, falls within code is your job. So if you do it incorrectly, that's coming off of your bill. So never pay for stuff up front. Be firm with people. Have the both bonuses and incentives if they get done earlier, go late. I think those things really help. So like mine will be kind of an equal and opposite thing. Like if they go 2 weeks too long, or if they go a week too long, I'll just say that I do it by the week. So every week they go by, they're going to get penalty. But if they get done, a week or two early, they're going to get that bonus as well. So that's just extra profit to them. So if they can be efficient, if they can get through on time, then you have the budget to give them, a little bit more on top, because now your holding costs go down. You can get the flip on the market faster and it sells faster. If it's a rental, you can get it rented faster, all those things. So it just benefits you. Like if you do a 1 week flip, like you can be a really good flipper. But when you do 60, 90, 120 day flips, like you lose money in holding costs and interest expense, all kinds of stuff.
I have 2 questions. The first, can you distill down 3 of like your material choices that you guys make? And I'll preface it, or I'll give more detail. Like, do you always do vinyl flooring with X amount of scratch surface throughout your properties? Or do you always use KitchenAid appliances no matter what? Or some of those tactical, like real hardware things?
We do try to do LVP or tile flooring where possible in the hotels because they get a lot of traffic and a lot of use. So having the carpet, like if you do carpet, it needs to be a commercial grade carpet that can withstand the added foot traffic or just the abuse that hotel guests will bring to them, sliding their bags around, bringing kids, I'm learning now, kids don't keep anything clean. So
dude.
those things stack up. So whenever you have tile or LVP as your flooring, which might not make as much sense if you're in a northern market and you've got a basement, right? You probably don't want LVP or tile because then it's just going to be cold underneath and not be that well insulated.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Or on upstairs, like we try to do carpet, like a commercial grade carpet on our top floor units, because so you don't hear the foot traffic and the noise from the people above you. It helps like pad the sound and everything. So that's one thing. I can't really think of another material that we like frequently go with because it really just depends on the project, which is going to depend on the location of that hotel and the demographic of guests that's staying there and the level of finishes that we're going to go with or how much we're going to put into the renovation.
Well, that in itself is an answer because that's great. That's the cool thing about boutique is that you can go to a I don't know, Marriott in like any city and it's probably the same material standardized. But you guys actually have the flexibility and the choice to tailor it to a local market, which is huge.
Yeah, you can control costs that way. You can also get bigger budgets that way. But yeah, that's the cool thing. Like our stuff in Florida was very different from Tahoe, like materials, size, quality to some extent. But it's just 2 different offerings. It's 2 different markets, 2 different guest demographics, 2 different people who are traveling there for different reasons, right? Like, you got lake and mountains and skiing and mountain biking and hiking in Tahoe, and then Panama City you have the beach. So people come for the beach. So all those are tile floors because sand gets everywhere and makes it easier to clean up. So yeah, it's just knowing your market, knowing what the guest experience is going to be in that hotel unit, and then making sure you're kind of prepared for that. Like in Tahoe, we ended up putting like boot racks and snowboard and ski racks because in the winter we got a lot of those and wanted to keep the snow and the salt out of inside the rooms on the floors and keep it in like the boot area. And then also have a place for people to put their skis and boots or their boards. So yeah, the market is really important with kind of how you do your renovation.
What are you seeing for insurance in this type of property? Because I have properties that are similar, not as many, but I'm getting eaten alive in insurance, especially in Florida. What are you seeing?
Especially in Florida. Yeah. Florida sucks, dude. So many carriers have left the market. Even houses that started out at like $2,000 are now like 4,000, 4,500. So they've doubled over the last 2-3 years. And I'm just like, that doesn't feel legal. That feels like,
Money grab.
yeah, just a money grab from the insurance. And they can do it because the insurance carriers are leaving the market. I mean, supply and demand, there's only a handful of carriers now that will write insurance policies. And that just only hurts the consumer, which is like the whole point of citizens insurance, at least for like homeowners insurance in Florida.
Yeah, we
Because
only have
that's such a,
citizens because like
yeah, and even that is more expensive. It's still supply and demand, right? And I don't see it coming down. Really, like the liability issues and that and other high risk states are also inflating costs across the cost across the country. Because if one market is way overexposed, they've got to up their prices in other markets to like spread that cost out for these bigger carriers that write across the country. So I think we're seeing it everywhere. Even in Tennessee, we had a pretty high policy that surprised me at the cost of it, but was still lower substantially than it would have been in Florida for the amount of coverage and everything. So that's just for like the property insurance alone. Now, if you're going to be in a market like Northern California or maybe Oregon or something like that, where they have frequent wildfires and you have the fire insurance, you're going to be in Florida or the Carolinas or the Houston area, whatever, like coastal, you want to have the flood and the wind insurance, which is really what adds to the cost in Florida is like the flood and the wind insurance. Cause just the property coverage is not that crazy.
Yeah,
But then like
if you don't have hurricane clips on a property in Florida, your insurance literally could like 5x. I don't know if everyone's familiar with what hurricane clips are, but essentially keeps the roof onto the structure of the property.
Yeah.
We bought our first quadplex.
So that way your roof doesn't fly into somebody else's roof. And then,
yeah, right. Yeah. Our first property didn't have hurricane clips, and our insurance was, I think it was estimated for a house, quadplex, like $36,000 annually. Yeah. So pre-close.
A roof for like 3,000 square feet. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like 30,
so we
30
had to get hurricane
roof.
clips because our debt to income couldn't support the purchase because it was crazy. So we had to get it installed prior to close or else we couldn't close on the house. So like for the people that are listening and trying to understand why insurance is such a big deal for affordability, it impacts two things. And this is more from like the loan officer perspective. It impacts debt to income ratio because it's quite literally going to be a fixed cost that you're going to have to deal with when you're doing the file. And the second thing is it affects prepaids or like the setup of the escrow account. So your closing costs go up tremendously because they collect a year of insurance up front. So if it's $5,000 for an annual premium, that's $5,000 at closing that you have to come out of pocket. So closing costs go up, debt to income goes up.
Yeah, and then for the commercial guys and gals, like that hits your NOI, right? Your net operating income is going to go down, which means your property is now worth less because the NOI determines your value in commercial real estate. So if your insurance, goes from whatever 90 to 120,000 a year, you just had a $30,000 NOI hit. So if you're at a 8 cap, that's I don't know over 300,000. A 10 cap would be 300,000 of value right there that you just lost on your property that you've got to now cut other expenses or, increase your top line or whatever it is, which is a lot harder to do, right? Like your insurance going up by that amount has big implications, which is why a lot of these deals have sat on the market for a long time in Florida. It's really hard to find deals that pencil in Florida. I love the Florida market. That's where we started out. I feel like I'm an adopted Florida boy, like board shorts and sandals, flip-flops just feel, like the norm now and love the sun down there. So I will definitely be buying more in Florida. It's just, you got to be really picky with the deals that you underwrite and have a really plan going in and then have some buffer and like, don't just project, normal 3% increases on your operating expenses. You might need to put a 10% escalator on insurance and see if that deal still works. And if not, I don't know if I'd be that confident in buying it.
That's awesome. So there's been a lot of turmoil in the short-term rental market. I own quite a few short-term rentals as well, and we had to, sell a couple. They cash flow long-term, so we were fine. But how are you surviving and thriving in that space?
Yeah, I think it's like by buying boutique hotels, honestly. Like I think Airbnb, like the platform, the company Airbnb is going to lose a lot of market share over the next, 3 to 5 years. I think it's going to be a much bigger skew having gone like all hotels, and then you introduce Airbnbs and just gets all the popularity, I think it's going to come back to hotels being a lot more popular. I mean, just look at affordability of like, of you guys or me trying to go book just a trip with my wife, just two people, right? We need a studio or a 1-bedroom apartment. And, to do that versus a hotel, now we're tacking on the price plus cleaning fees, plus all the other fees they put on there, plus the 14% Airbnb tax on, like it adds, for a, weekend trip, probably 30-40% cost.
Yeah, 100.
So people will just go book the hotel. The price advertises the price you pay per night. They're going to save money, and they're going to be, right in the area of where they're going to go do stuff anyway. So over the last 2 years, like we stayed in only Airbnbs for like 3 years straight. Like 2 years ago, became Marriott Reward members, and we stay in hotels almost like exclusively now. It's just like the experience is better, the consistency and the standards are better. We don't have to deal with all the like the different houses, like everything's different. You just never know what you're going to get with an Airbnb, and at the hotel we know we're going to get, and it's cheaper. So I think that's pushing a lot more people into the hotel space. And then you think about like the regulations that are happening, that's literally pushing people out to where they can't do Airbnb. That's Airbnb is the company losing their supply of available places that can be rented by guests, which if there's not enough places, people are going to go back to hotels as well. And then thinking now that people have been doing this pretty professionally for 5, 6, 7 years now, and direct bookings have gotten really big, especially for smart hosts. They're trying to take people off platform. They're marketing themselves. They're not relying on Airbnb to bring guests to them anymore. I mean, we're big into that as well. Like 50% of our bookings are direct, over 50 now. So we don't want to pay the platform fees as hosts. So that's taking bookings away from the platform as well. So I don't think Airbnb is going to do great. I mean, I don't think it's ever really going to go away. I think you can still be profitable with Airbnb, but I think to be, or to get the returns that you could expect kind of on average 3 or 4 years ago, you have to be like the top 5% or better in your market now to get those same returns, right? Which means you're spending 50 to 100% more on your design and your furniture to get that level of quality. And you actually have to be involved with your guest experience and be much more tied to the business. Yeah. And if you're going to do that, like, I mean, it's run a whole business. You build yourself another job. I think it's like the other side of that is if you can, like what I'm like investing all my time and money into is the boutique hotel side, where I have a scalable business. I want people off the platforms anyway, and platforms like Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia, whatever, just supplements for me to get bookings. But I can focus on the guest experience at the hotel, because now if it's 20 units, I can put in, pickleball, I can put in a pool, I can put in a hot tub, I can put all these other amenities and spread the cost over 20 units. Right? If you do it on a house, you have to keep the cost tied to that one rentable unit. So that makes like the increasing the guest experience that you're going to have at the hotel much better, which adds to the ADRs of all your average daily rates of all your units. And people have just, I think when you can match like the bookability, the quality of like the experience of Airbnb, like the ease of check-in, all that stuff, and the findability, people like the marketability with the consistency in the standards and the quality of hotels, that's your winning formula.
Yeah, I totally agree. The ownership side of Airbnb has been great for our family, but now traveling, even though I have 3 kids, we've actually gone back to hotels because limiting variables is huge, especially like getting kids to sleep and just like having somebody in the hotel to help check you in and like set up the cots for the kids. Like, I don't think we've stayed in Airbnb in a long time now. And if there was anybody that was fully Airbnb, it was definitely us. So I think you're totally right. Okay,
I was right there with you.
Yeah. If you could talk to 3 Air Force Academy seniors, they're sitting in a room, what would you tell them about real estate in a digestible way?
Use your VA loan, house hack, save up all your BAH and money that you'd saved from like renting or buying a house for the next investment. Those are like your 3 steps to building a real estate portfolio that might just turn into like that oh shit moment of surpassing your W-2 income in a year. I mean, there's going to be a lot more work to do that, but that was like my foundation. We bought a house, VA loan, we house hacked it, we saved up to buy more.
That's sweet. And in front of all of these goats, can you commit to coming to the Blue and Gold Summit? All expenses paid. I'll cover it.
I would. Where's it at, man? I would love to.
Annapolis.
It's in Annapolis. There'll be about 400 plus people there.
You know what, dude? I need to go back to Annapolis and get a win, because the last time I was there, my junior year, we lost by 3 points. It was a high-scoring Academy game. It was like 35-38, and lost by a field goal, and went down to like the last possessions, like score, stopped, field goal, lost. I was like, that was terrible.
That's such classic Navy Air Force. I feel like for 10 years, the spread was like 3 or like 1.5.
Yeah, dude, they're always tight games, but I was like, I was expecting like a 13-20 game or like a 21-24 game. And this was a 35-38, which is more rare. But yeah, dude, I'd love it. So I need a win going back to Annapolis, but expect me in Air Force Blue.
Cool. Well, no money out of your pocket. We'll take care of it. But I think the group would love to hear you, especially on like a panel, Geoffrey. Sit next to Samir Patel. Like, you know, I think it would be electric. That would be really, really awesome. Geoffrey's really good at closing these out, so I'll turn it back to Geoffrey.
All right. What's 3 pieces of advice you would leave to, you know, any Academy grad, or even if they're at the Academy? Just life advice, not real estate.
Life advice for Academy grads, or really anybody, but definitely for Academy grads, because the network is so strong. Like, lean into your community and your network. Like and that's so prevalent for Academy grads, right? Because you have the alumni network of the Naval Academy, for example, but then you've got the Service Academy alumni network. And then you got this wider network of service members and veterans. So you've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that have been in your shoes through basic training, you know, got their MOS, served, deployed, whatever. Like, they know the experience, they know what you've been through. Those are like some of my best friends. Those are most of my investors. Those are my business advisors. Those are my partners. Like, those are the people that are in my network, in my community, that I do deals with. Because it's so easy to immediately relate. And if you're a younger person, do that now. Like, I got into my first, this is so funny thinking about now, because I spend like 12,000, 10,000 plus on masterminds, but I joined my first service member and vet mastermind, the War Room Mastermind. It was $50 a month. I was like, man, do I want to drop $50 a month on this thing? And dude, I've gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of value out of that group, but also, you know, priceless relationships and friendships and mentors and advisors and help along the way. That getting into the group, like, whether it's a paid thing or a free thing or whatever, I always think it's like better to like put some money on the line, because then you have skin in the game and you'll commit to the group. But whatever that group is for you, like, lean into the Service Academy, the military member, into that network, and ask questions. You know, go apply what you're asking, and then you get the answer. Go apply that thing, and then like follow up, like, oh, I did this thing, because then they're like, they want to pour into you even more because they see that you're a doer, and people like that. That's tip number 1. I think tip number 2, especially for people starting out, what really helped me was having a budget. And it sounds so simple, but like, you come out of the academy, you're making whatever, $700 or $800 a month. You literally spend your whole paycheck every month, because like one weekend going out, gas and drinks and food or whatever. And then, you know, your fiance, your girlfriend flies out, and you got to take her out, and you got to book a hotel room. Like, $800 is gone every single month. So when you're actually making, you know, $3,000, $4,000 a month as a lieutenant, whatever, depending on your BAH, if you have those same spending habits, your whole check's gone every month, and you're not putting anything away into retirement, into savings, into investments. And that is going to hold you back, right? You're just like delaying you getting to your ultimate goal, which is probably financial freedom or whatever it is. So know where your money is coming from, know where it's going, and just be disciplined, man. Like, be you, right? Because this is all military members, Naval Academy grads. Listen to this. Like, be you. You have the discipline. You made it through the Naval Academy. You can, like, you went to classes, you went to formation, you did all this shit. Sit down for 5 or 10 minutes and look at your money, and have a plan for your money. And then third, I think is just like a personality trait almost of accepting that you're not going to know everything before you do it. And you have to be able to make or take action, not knowing the result or not knowing all the steps. Like, you just need to know the first freaking step. You just need to know that you can use your VA loan. You don't need to know how to get the appraisal or what their appraisal requirements are, or, what the inspector is looking at, or, all the documents the lenders need. You just need to know that the fucking loan works and that you can use it. Call the lender and the agent, and they basically walk you through that first transaction. So you don't need to know every single step. You just need to be bold enough, manufacture confidence enough to take the first step and just have a freaking relentless pursuit of that. Act, learn, because you're going to have failures. You're going to make mistakes, but there's no way to get to the other side of that without doing. Like, you can only read so much. You can only ask so many questions before you start to be a pain in everybody else's ass, because you're asking the same shit at every real estate meetup for a year, right? Go buy a house, go lose 10 grand because the house didn't even work out. Because guess what? You just learned the thing that's going to help you make 20,000, 30,000 on the next house. Like, just do the
Business
freaking
degree,
thing,
man. You can literally, it feels like getting a business degree, even if you lose money on your first house. So what? It's like,
yeah.
as long as you
So
have
what,
the
dude? You got college for free. Count that as your $10,000 education, right?
right.
But none of us had the student loan debt, so you can afford to take a little risk, man. Take on some
Yeah,
debt.
that's right.
It works.
Well, Blake, it's been a total pleasure, and you're definitely an honorary GOAT. Super appreciative of your time. I know you got a lot of people that you could spend it with. We shot you over a friend request from the USNA Property Network. We'll share this across everything, and we're pumped to
Go
see you.
accept it right now.
I think the amount of people that are going to benefit from your story and your approachability is through the roof, and that's exactly what we're trying to build this group around. Unintimidating, non-egotistical, talk about failures. It's awesome. So
Yeah, that's how you get through them, man. And I'll just kind of like wrap up and say, like, I would not be here today if I didn't pour into the guys like you when I was like the new lieutenant, just learning how, life worked as an officer, right? Like how you balance trying to invest and build something for your future while also trying to be a good officer at the same time. And then, oh yeah, I'm a husband at the same time, and now I'm a dad. So there's everybody listening in different phases of that. But the people in here, the people in your guys' community are the ones who are going to pour back into you the most, and just get around them. Find ways to spend time with them. Go to your guys' conference, go to the real estate meetup that's, close to you, get in the Facebook group, like find your way to get around these people, because it's just going to rub off on you, and you're going to get like in your phase right now. If you're listening to this and you don't have like a big portfolio, or you haven't even done a deal yet, like you're one tip away. You're literally one relationship away from getting what that next goal is. So just lean into it, man.
Love
That's
it.
the truth. That's the truth. Blake, where can they find you on Instagram and the socials?
Yeah, Instagram's at Blake J Dailey. So you guys can hit me up there. If you got any boutique hotel questions, life questions, I'm still figuring that one out. But yeah, feel free to hit me up and follow. And yeah, Blake J Dailey. Happy to help if I can.
Awesome. I appreciate you, Blake. This is Geoffrey Whiteside and JD Kameen signing off.
See you guys.